Hi guys, it's ThelazyCosplayer here. For a while now I've wanted to do a number of videos, in particular what I refer to as a deep dive, which has a deeper look at some of my costumes and the amount of detail that I put into those costumes. Not all of the details and the little itty bitty things that I do to some of my costumes get shown in other media such as photos. As great as those photos look, they sometimes leave out those little things that make my costume my costume. So what better way to start off than to have a look at the one costume I get asked about 99% of the time, and that is the Dark Knight Rises Catwoman. First up, I'd like to start off with your undergarments, because I believe the base of every good costume is the silhouette that's underneath, and that silhouette is determined by the undergarments you wear. So first up is a lovely push-up bra, and what I consider a necessity for any kind of skin-tight lycra spandex suit is some shapewear. And that just irons out any kind of wrinkles, imperfections, bumps and things like that, and gives you a lovely silhouette. So next part is the catsuit, which the majority of my questions originate from. So there she is, and she started off life as a wet look fetish catsuit thing, much unlike what she looks like currently. To get rid of the wet look, I just simply spray painted with a matte black spray paint. She had a zipper that went from my collarbone right down through my legs and up to the base of my spine, which is very un-Catwoman-like. So I had that removed. And now her zip goes from collarbone still, but just below her navel where the belt kind of covers it. I also added this little zipper thing because she had like this little detail on the zipper, and that was the closest thing I could find. It was actually clear and I painted it black. I also, when I tried on my catsuit, I measured the exact parts where I needed this lovely leather-ish detail. As you can see, it goes around just under the bust, and then it's also featured on either side of the zip, and once again on the back around the shoulders if you want to be hyper accurate. There's also ones like the bust one but on the back, which I don't know how you would do, but if you've ever seen the back shot, she actually has that on the back as well. I also removed the collar and put in a new collar. It's filled with craft foam of all things. I didn't know what to do at the time. I was still learning. And it kind of is this shiny stretch fabric, that kind of leather look material. Now we come to the inside of my catsuit, which is what it looks like here. Now what I did to create that texture that everyone asks about is I designed that pill pattern using Illustrator, but you can conveniently download it from my Facebook or my website when I get it up and running. I printed it out on a sheet of paper and stuck it to the back of some stencil film. And then I painstakingly cut each of those little pill things out with an X-Acto knife. And then I would just simply mark out where my strip detailing was, so I wouldn't go over it with the texture. So that's like that. And then I would just line up my pattern how I wanted it and go over it with my 3D puff paint. In particular, this one's Scribbles 3D fabric paint. I didn't use a hairdryer or anything else like that. I thought the textures texture I had was enough to create that look. Because it doesn't stretch, it actually helps. It's only a very light texture, nothing crazy, and because it has no give in it, it actually works out better because the fabric around it stretches, and I don't know, it creates a better look for the texture. Now, I get asked a lot whether this texture actually hurts because it is 3D. It would show up just a little bit, but nothing crazy. I think your feet are more likely to hurt from the crazy high shoes that you're wearing. And what I also did is I didn't let the paint dry on the stencil. After I'd done it all, I just carefully lifted it up, because if it dried, it would actually stick, and I broke a number of stencils doing it that way. So, and then I had to do them all again, or sticky tape bits and pieces together, because yeah, and you don't want to be doing those things again, they take forever. Next up is my belt. That's what it looks like. The base of the belt is actually some rubber I got from a hardware store, and when you cut it with a slight curve, then it will mold to your hip shape better, because our hips aren't straight, they kind of go like that, and it will give you a better shape. I then covered it with the same material I used for the collar, that kind of matte leather, but not anything like leather stretch fabric. Then I created my pockets, that's what they look like, with this paper mache stuff. I used it for my shoes as well. It's kind of like a marriage between clay and paper mache. It's like moldable, but as light as a feather, light as paper, and easy to paint because it works just like paper. I don't know if you can get it still, but yeah, I found it really wonderful to work with. So I just coated some Tupperware that was the right shape in it, and then after that I carved in some details, got some craft foam, glued that on, covered that with some carbon fiber contact, went over with my puff paint and did extra little gizmos and things as per her pockets, then used some additional craft foam and paper and things like that to create the flaps, because they're functional pockets and can actually hold stuff. So it's all painted, all semi-nice. I tried to be okay, but this costume's, 3 years old, so it's had a bit of wear and tear in it. There are 3 designs, 2 for the pockets and 1 for the central belt buckle. Now, if you're being super accurate, there's actually 4 different designs, 3 pockets and 1 central belt buckle, but I just couldn't be bothered doing another design, and I thought 5 pockets was enough instead of the 7 if you're being super accurate. Now, each of these pockets is actually sewn into place with a heavy duty needle and some wool. Yeah, not the greatest thing, but I was learning at the time, and instead of sewing a nice sock thing to insert my rubber belt in, I just decided to tape it. You can see that crisscross pattern underneath, that's the rubber. I actually used it on the smooth side, and you can kind of see a little bit of the texture from the good side, but nothing crazy. You wouldn't be able to spot it in photos and things like that. To hide the central seam, or where the join is for the belt, I just placed a pocket over the top, which is held together, this one by Velcro. As you can see, it comes off and then unclips the belt, which is also held with these heavy duty snap locks and more Velcro, lots of Velcro. So that holds it in place, allows you to adjust it if you need to, and then hides that central seam so you don't have an ugly belt buckle somewhere in your belt. I'll quickly touch on the gloves. These are a 2-elbow opera glove. They're actually genuine leather because that was affordable at the time, and nothing looks good or smells as pretty as real leather. And the trowel I used for my texture pattern, I cut out small parts and put for the top of the hand and edged with some leather piping, as you can see there, and just glued it on using fabric glue. Probably not the best option. I would suggest sewing it in place. You'll get a better finish, but I was learning at the time and wasn't really interested in hand sewing. So this is what Catwoman's shoes look like. They're a mid-thigh or upper thigh boot with a zipper on the inside, and they have a bit of stretch so you can get your feet into them. They also have a platform. Hers are about half the size, but I'm a shorty and I need all the height I can get. I went to a cobbler and had grip placed on them because they were kind of slippery and I didn't want to fall over. They had a black inner sole, so you can see how I've painted that. Now this design, this was created using, well, this blade was created using a ruler because I needed something that was strong and really, really straight, and what's straighter than a ruler. So I cut that to fit the shape of the heel, like the curvature of the heel. Cut it all out and then molded it, glued it and molded a mold around it using that paper mache stuff, as you can kind of see flicking a bit off there from all the wear and tear. I created a stencil of this arc to try and get it symmetrical. I did a bit of gap filler like you would use to patch walls and things to kind of give it a smooth edge, because I could sand it down, and I tried my best to get it rather nice and round and perfect. And I cut in the serrated blade edge as well, and I'll give you a hint. Whenever you're painting something and you need to create more depth, you can start off with your base shade of silver for the majority, and any kind of high points or high details you paint with a lighter silver. And what I did for the inside of each of these serrated gaps, I would use a darker one, a darker silver, because it creates more depth and makes the deepness of the little serrated parts more pronounced. So it shows up better in photos and people can actually pick it, hopefully. No Catwoman would be complete without her goggles. The majority of these were the officially licensed The Dark Knight Rises Catwoman goggles and mask set. When it came, it was in 3 pieces: the mask, the goggles, and a headband which had the ears. And of course, that's not what it should be. It should be one piece that connects. So first off, I'll start with the mask. So nothing much was altered with the mask. This had a different pattern on the side, and I just included the carbon fiber contact which I used on the belt. I also used a Sharpie to colour in some of the eyebrow details, painted on the copper around her nose. There's also copper and silver parts under her eye sockets. But the mask was a really great base because it had all the details and stuff I couldn't really replicate myself. To make it mold to my face, I used some Warbler, heated it up in the oven and pressed it to my face. Just a safety precaution. You shouldn't really be putting boiling hot things on your face, so just be careful when you do it. I then glued the mask to the warbler so it would hold that shape better. Using that paper mache stuff, I elongated the earpieces, continued some of the detailing, and then that was the mask complete. Then I had the goggles, so I just attached them with a screw so they could pivot and rotate up and down what they needed to do. I cut the ears off the headband part, which was in the goggle set, added in lights. There we go. Because accuracy and shiny. In the binocular seeing part, I cut out little circles out of a Pepsi bottle, inserted them in, and as you can see, they've got little crosses that I did with 3D puff paint. So, because they needed to look like little tiny binocular glass things, and it was just like an empty hole. So that adds another dimension to it. The hardest part of this whole project was the visor. The licensed costume visor was purple, and if you've ever seen the movie, you would know that it is actually red. So I tried everything to make the visor in the costuming accessories kit red. I tried food coloring, I tried fabric dye, I tried red clear contact that you cover books with. I even tried auto car fog lamp coverings. I tried everything to make the officially licensed visor part red. In the end, I cut a piece of acrylic and heat molded it over the original visor shape and inserted it into the rubber goggles that came with the kit. That concludes the video, the deep dive into the Dark Knight Rises Catwoman. If you have any additional questions, just put them in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer them in type form instead of video form. But I hope this answers the majority of your burning questions relating to how I did my costume, and maybe gives you a new appreciation for the lengths I go to create all those little tiny details that you might not necessarily pick up in my photos. So thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more deep dives, and the Lazy Cosplayer signing out.